Okay, so to recap, user-centered design incorporates the user throughout product development, right? We looked at a general process for doing this in which we first capture user requirements by spending time with them and empathizing with the user in their environment. And then we took these learnings and we can apply them to the product or the solution that we're creating by testing and continuously revising so that each iteration gets closer and closer to what the user actually needs and wants. But maybe we can start by taking a step back to even consider the value of having a process to begin with. I think it's important to first recognize that when we're talking about product design, we're not exclusively talking about the design of, coffee makers and key fobs and computer mice. Really, we're talking about the design of anything that people use, right? We're talking about how to design processes and systems. We're talking about, the design of safety awareness campaigns, or maybe the design of interdepartmental forms and processes that we can use to communicate with each other in the company. Or we could be talking about, the design of a process used in the operating room to ensure that a surgeon is operating on the correct leg. Or we could be talking about, the design of a community water treatment system in a developing country. If any of these systems are developed without first considering the people who will be using them, eventually they're going to fail. Eventually, people are just going to end up inventing their own workarounds, and when they do this, they're going to end up making mistakes. And of course, they're going to blame the product, just as I did, and when in reality it was the design of the product itself that caused them to modify their behavior. Basically, products or tools or systems that humans interact with should be designed in such a way that they both optimize human performance and minimize human error, right? They should be designed so that people like them and want them and need it. So here I wanted to talk about now why it's important to follow a process or a method when creating a new solution or a new product. So, if we're really talking about the design of everything from processes to products, then we might as well have opened Pandora's box, right? I mean, what single discipline can design a complex piece of medical equipment, soup to nuts, that can also develop a financing application review process in the banking industry, for example? I mean, the reality is that each of these requires a deep understanding of the industry, but they can both benefit from, involving the user in the design process. I mean, you wouldn't want to develop an intravenous balloon angioplasty device without first understanding how it's going to be used during cardiovascular surgery, right? But this does not mean that only surgeons can design such a device. The best designs can benefit from both a depth of understanding as well as a breadth of experience and inspiration. Tim Brown talks about including a diverse group of people in the design process. He said that design teams must be able to bring a range of experience to the table, but they also must be able to dive deep when they need to. So when you have a diverse team coming together to achieve a common goal, a really prescriptive process can be useful as, it keeps everybody on the same page and generally moving forward in unison. But one of the challenges in having a diverse team is that they can easily be derailed by strong opinions or by differing personalities. But the difference between opinion and fact is that fact is supported by scientific evidence. So to bring fact and scientific rigor into your design, it's important to have a strong methodology. Make sense? So you may remember the scientific method from grade school, or at least the post that I mentioned earlier. And as I discussed in the post, this method is known and respected as an approach that is used to produce really verifiable results. And it's been used for hundreds of years, as you know. The problem with this approach is that it's very algorithmic, right? It's very rigorous, and it can be time consuming to go through all these steps and ensure controlled studies and so forth. But to a company with a P&L sheet, this kind of rigor sometimes translates to expensive. But as an engineer, or at least as a person in this engineering class, this type of rigor is not always necessary. I mean, it's not like we're producing life-saving drugs that require exact ratios and understanding of compound interactions all the time, right? We're usually just focused on getting to a workable solution quickly. But we're also focused on getting to the right solution. So what if we could use parts of the scientific method to help us develop solutions? And what if we could quickly move through these 5 steps in the scientific method as we develop products for human use? So the user-centered design process we talked about in the last video is useful, but I think you would agree that it's a little vague, right? We need something that's clear yet rigorous, and something that everyone can do, whether you're an engineer and you're trained in the scientific method or not. My main point here is that designing products for human use is something that everyone can do. You don't have to be a designer. You don't have to be artsy. It's not just something you're born with. If we give people the right tools and the right rules or constraints, anyone can create an elegant and an effective product. We just need, a rigorous method based on scientific validity. We need a diverse team that's able to dive deep when needed. But we also need an organizational environment that allows people the freedom to explore and to fail. Okay, so in the next video, we're going to talk about design thinking as a method for user-centered solution development. Okay, and I think you're going to see how design thinking nicely mirrors this scientific method and how it brings an element of rigor and repeatability to the design process. So with that, I will close for now, and I will see you in the next video.